me go across to our panelists. Today joining us on the show, we have Nikhil Chandwani, an author. Also, Anish Gawande joins us, an activist as well as a politician. But today, Anish, you are here as the voice of India. It's important for us to understand because we've seen all these wars being fought. A lot of this war is not just with missiles and tanks and drones. A lot of this war is being fought on social media because the power of a narrative now is becoming very clear. War after war, country after country, narrative after narrative. Is India's soft power lying in the films that we put out, the artists who go out, and the songs that we have the world tapping to?
You know, I want to start off by saying, Meghna, what a wonderful trip down memory lane you've taken all of us in the minutes before.
I think it's been, Anish.
It's been a really reassuring watch, because I think over the course of the last 7 decades, Indian cinema has made an outsized mark across the world. You know, right from Mother India and Pather Panchali, which became hits back in the day, to even films like Lagan, like you said, but Dangal and others that have become international super hits, and Shah Rukh Khan becoming the global chocolate boy and not just an Indian chocolate boy. I think we've had moments that have really made India proud on the global stage. And definitely that's looked like posters of Shah Rukh Khan on the top of Jungfrau Mountain in Switzerland. That's looked like a huge surge of people across the former USSR knowing what India's cinema is and dancing to our tunes. And it's also looked like, and I'll share this funny anecdote, people in Senegal and all the way in West Africa meeting an Indian person for the first time when I went there, but knowing Indian cinema perhaps better than I did. So I think the wave that you're seeing currently with Dhurandhar, it's a film whose success we must all acknowledge and credit, is part of a long history of Indian cinema that has made its mark on the world. But it does come with a few controversies that I hope we'll touch on later.
Well, we'll come down to that, because right now, as I said, you don't have to be a fan of the film to accept that the messaging behind the film is very powerful. Nikhil Chandwani, we are going to pull out those visuals of a Prime Minister and a President jogging across in London's Hyde Park and discussing India, Dhurandhar, and also one of them saying that I understand it's not all a game, that it's much more serious. Nikhil Chandwani, the significance of this moment.
Ma'am, you are very right. For decades, India was treated as a passive participant in global discourse. We were a country that reacted, adjusted, and negotiated. Our culture was consumed for sure, but it often happened in silos, diaspora circles, niche audiences, or festival circuits. But what we are witnessing today is fundamentally very different. India is no longer exporting just food, films, or festivals. India is exporting narratives.
Oh, Nikhil, unfortunately,
world has understood that it's India.
Okay, you're back. Go ahead.
Yeah,
you got interrupted for a bit.
The world has understood that it's India that knows how to tackle terrorism better than anybody else. And that's why everybody is listening to us right now. Because unlike much of the Western world that has encountered the large-scale terrorism relatively recently, India has been dealing with it for generations. Yes. From cross-border infiltration to proxy warfare, the challenge has been persistent, it has been evolving, and it has been deeply complex. Much of it, as India has repeatedly pointed out on global platforms, has roots in state-sponsored across the border in Pakistan. Pakistan was sponsoring it. People were not listening to us until 2014, 2015, but now India's warning, it's not regional grievances. We are being understood for global lessons, and this is where our India's foreign policy deserves serious credit. Under Shri Narendra Modi ji, there has been a clear understanding that influence in 21st century cannot just rely on military strength or economic size. Those are necessary, yes, but they are not sufficient. The real game is all about shaping perceptions, and we are the master of it right now.
We seem to have aced the game, and hopefully it continues, because many said during Operation Sindoor there was a counter narrative which was being spun by Pakistan as well. The photo ops, remember, if you had the failed Marshal Asim Munir, Shehbaz Sharif running across to White House, taking those pictures with Trump. Many said that it's important that India's side, India's story also being told. And Anish, You may be a fan, may not be a fan of Dhurandhar, but would you say that at least a lot of these things, because this is a fictional film, however, India's narrative was pushed out in the film?
You know, I want to start off by saying that it's being very unfair to Indian cinema to think that we were not pulling our own weight before 2014. I give Prime Minister Narendra Modi credit for many things, but for a complete transformation of Bollywood, even I won't go that far. We have to remember
Fair enough, from the days of Raj Kapoor, I think we can all agree that Mera Juta Hai Japani was one of the biggest things across till date in Soviet Union as it was then.
Exactly, and I want to refrain from making this comparison between then and now, because during the non-aligned movement, when India's GDP was insignificant compared to sort of other global powers, Prime Minister Nehru's policies on cinema were responsible for taking India's voice abroad in more ways than one. It's a policy that the Indian government has continued, and governance is always about continuity, and has really mastered now, and we've recognized. I think you're very right. Unfortunately, after Operation Sindoor, we'd lost the narrative war for many months. And in some ways, we were blindsided by an attack that was planned against us. And the enemy obviously had a strategic advantage in that sense.
But we had a very decisive victory in that operation.
Exactly.
So a quick word from Nikhil Chandwani. Do you think it's soft narratives, the soft power such as cinema, such as films, which can win back the narrative? We may have lost ground at some point or the other. It doesn't matter. The point is, this puts it back into place that yes, indeed, there is anti-India terror networks operating with the support of Pakistan. And this film brings that back. Nikhil?
Yes, ma'am, think about the layering here. On one hand, India has maintained strategic autonomy, engaging with the United States. We are buying oil from Russia. We are building ties in the Middle East and navigating major conflicts without becoming anybody's puppet. And that builds credibility. And that is perhaps the reason in UK you are seeing prime ministers and presidents of different countries talking about a movie like Dhurandhar, because right now people are trusting us. People are trusting our voice. We have been fighting terrorism since 1947. Yes. And now the other countries are also fighting the same war. They are fighting the same war. And
unfortunately, gentlemen, I'm running out of time, but let's just remind you of that final time, the jog. Because at the end of it, it's not about just diplomacy, just about the economic strength, just about what we are putting out. It is also the artists who have done their bit in India's soft power. That when you have world leaders jockeying in the Hyde Park, they're not discussing world economy, they're not discussing the war, they are discussing India and India's story. And I think that should be the biggest takeaway. Thank you so much, Nikhil Chandwani as well as Anish Gawande for joining us here on the show. With that, we wrap up. I'll see you again tomorrow at 6:30 p.m.